Welcome to the Catch Up with Claire. I'm your host, Claire Hoon, and this is March solo episode. It is, technically it's 10 p.m. on February 28th, but it's close enough to March, so we're counting it. I saw this post back in January that someone said, it was the first week of January, right after the new year, and they said something along the lines of January is not nature's natural beginning point. That springtime and the beginning of spring is really nature's, and I guess like the world or universe, however you want to think about it, natural beginning. And the reason they were posting this was saying, if you're not feeling the whole ready to reset in New Year in January, it's because it's still the end and a closing of a season rather than sort of like an awakening or a new beginning or a fresh start. Like it doesn't align naturally, which I realize sounds very woo-woo of me to be talking about, but I'm leaning into this because, first of all, if you listen to January's solo episode, you know that my end of year and beginning of year was off to a very rocky start. But on the cusp of March 1st, I feel ready. Like I actually do feel sort of I'm ready to start conquering the year, which I realize we're 2 months into now, but it feels, I don't know, that popped into my brain earlier this week because I was like, okay, I'm actually ready to start getting things organized. Also, is it just me, or does it feel like the year of 2026 has already been a full year? Like there's something about January lasted forever. February, despite only being 28 days, also felt like it dragged on. And in one sense, I can't believe it's already March 1st. Like that went pretty quickly, but also living every single day of January and February. Who, mama, not for me. Not for me. And I'm not trying to wish away the rest of the year or have things pick up because, I don't know, something about having kids makes time just absolutely accelerate and you want to just eat them up while they're so young. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk about how I have a 10.5-month-old baby now, and April's solo episode is going to be interesting. But I think I don't know, I'm feeling ready for March. I'm feeling ready for spring. I'm feeling ready to start sort of being the organized person I thought I was going to be on January 1st in March. So just recently, I've started to feel, let me back up. I forced systems at the beginning of January in our family out of absolute desperation. Like I felt like our December and our holidays were so chaotic. So much was going on. I felt so all over the place that we started putting in a routine where, one, we ate the same meal. Back was what we did in the fall. So we went back to our weekly meal calendar. And then we also started organizing our week into 2-day sections. So Saturdays and Wednesday nights became sort of like our family reset. And it's actually been working out really well. I think we were over I was overwhelmed by the amount of things that we have to do just to run a household. And I was talking about this on my stories earlier this week, but my therapist has actually been helping me work on this of like, you run a business at work. Like you've been a professional for over a decade now, and you need to run your household like a business, which makes total sense. It just never really occurred to me, like translating those skills. Anyway, so we assigned Saturdays to be Saturday morning family time. So really this isn't always possible, but trying to not make plans until at least noon. So my son has basketball every Saturday morning early, so we take him to that, and then we come home. We have breakfast as a family. We either get bagels or make breakfast at home, and while we're eating breakfast, we do our family meeting. So talking about sort of highs and lows of the week, talking about things that happen that we want to discuss, good or bad, talking about reviewing sort of behavior. We're really working on our family core values and helping our children. under kindness and respect and how we treat one another. And I mean, they're just at that age where they're bickering all the time and at each other's throats, but then turn around and are the absolute best of friends. If you have siblings, I'm sure you know. So we talk about that in our family meeting. We talk about our chores. We talk about the upcoming week, activities or events, or if there's a day off school, which there probably is because they're always off school. We talk about days that my husband and I will be in the office and what their pickup schedule will look like, really just to give everyone sort of a sense of, okay, this is what we covered last week. This is what we have coming into upcoming week. So there's no surprises. There's enough time to prepare. If there are special outfits or special things that we need to prep, we do all of that during that time. And then we alternate picking songs for a playlist and we clean the apartment. So everybody has sort of a set chore list and we all do it together. We start by doing laundry. So laundry in our building is a wash cycle is 37 minutes and then the dry cycle is 45 minutes. So it's basically 40 minutes of cleaning while everything is in the wash and then we can go down and switch it and put it in the dryer. But we use that time it felt really exhausting to know that we had all of these chores to do and felt like the full onus of responsibility fell on myself and my husband, and trying to teach them of like, this is a collective household unit and we all contribute in ways that we can. And I mean, give a kid a spray bottle and they go crazy. So they actually are very into it. It really didn't take that much convincing. It's more so just sticking to it. So putting in systems like that back in January, again, it felt very forced and it has felt forced, but it's actually been so helpful because all week previous to this, at the end of last year, we would be doing like one load of laundry on a Tuesday and then for just the kids. And then our stuff would need to be clean. So we'd go like Friday morning and then we do a big round on the weekend. But would it be Saturday or would we wait until Sunday? And it just kind of felt like we were always thinking about it. And so it felt like a bigger task or a bigger chore than it actually is. Like now we decided Wednesday nights after work and school and Saturday mornings, those are the 2 time slots that we're going to do our laundry. And actually we've stuck to it. Only once has a kid gotten sick enough that we've had to break our laundry cycle, but it's worked out really well because having this sort of predictability around it makes the activity, it's not an activity, I'm going to call it a chore because it's a chore. It has made chores feel less chorey, just less heavy. It's just like, it's not that big of a deal. We go down, it's Wednesday night, we put the laundry in. Anyway, so I've been trying to do little bite-size, attainable systems that can work and really help just make us run more efficiently. I haven't started this next one yet, but I've been trying to figure out a way to organize our kitchen piles. So like we have our mail pile and I have my wallet, AirPod, sunglasses pile, and we have our hairbrush and baby wipes pile. And these are all just like miscellaneous little things that don't really have a home. Like their home is on a surface. Not that it should be, but it is. And it's because we don't have a mud room to put a person or a bag in. And so my wallet, I usually just stick it in the stroller or in my pocket. Like I don't have a whole bag system. I always do my daughter's hair while she's eating breakfast. And so the brush ends up living on the kitchen counter. Baby wipes because we have a baby and constantly need to be wiping it. And so they're always just sitting there. And then the mail is, I know you're supposed to open it as soon as you get it, but as soon as I get the mail, I'm walking in the house with usually a baby in hand and I have to put the baby down. So in order to do that, I have to put the mail down. Anyway, all of these piles just keep accumulating but I also don't have the space. Like I haven't figured out what to do. So I don't know what actually I do. I was working out. I was doing my little arm workout on Peloton and I was staring into my office and I did a nursing cart for this baby back when she was a newborn and it had my nursing stuff on top and then snacks on the bottom. And I now have this little cart that I don't use as a nursing cart anymore. And so what I think I'm going to do is repurpose the nursing cart to be the like catch-all cart and put quick things that need a home but are all miscellaneous, but don't have a place to live. So I'm going to put baby wipes. I'm going to put the hairbrush. I'm going to have a place to toss sort of things that we need to grab in and out of the house quickly. Keys, wallets, AirPods, sunglasses, a place to put the mail that I need to do something with. So that is my task for tomorrow. I'm giving myself this weekend to get that together. That'll be my next sort of system I just want to look at less things on my counters. Honestly, like I don't know where to put all of these things. Someone needs to tell me where all the things in your house need to live, because I feel like there's something very true about a decluttered environment is a decluttered brain, and waking up and just looking at counters, it just like you immediately feel frenzied. This was my other goal is 30 days feels so ambitious. I actually was thinking I should have started this for Lent and done it for all of Lent, but I'm behind. I did give up soda for Lent and I had been going strong on that. This would have been another good thing to add to do. But anyway, I'm going to start challenging myself to a 30-day challenge. You know what? Let's make it 31 days. Let's do it all of March. Listeners, hold me accountable. Clear the counters every single night. Feels scary to say. I feel like I might be setting myself up for failure, but it's one of those things, if I don't say it and I don't start doing it, then I'm just going to have clutter living on my counters forever. And actually, the reason I didn't start earlier for Lent is because they're so cluttered, because I have these piles of things living everywhere that I don't know what to do with. So now that I figured out, I'm going to repurpose the nursing cart and make that sort the clutter center, although I'm going to keep it organized. I'm not going to let it be cluttery, although it's on wheels, so I could always just wheel it away. I'm now going to clear the counters every day of March. Maybe I'll take a time-lapse video. Actually, that wouldn't be a time-lapse video, but I'll take a video of me clearing the counters every night, and that'll be one way to hold me accountable. So I don't know. I'm just feeling on the cusp of March 1st, ready to sort of simplify, ready to put some systems in place, ready to start my year. I've also been feeling a like extreme stroke of creativity and like creation again, kind of how I felt back in the fall when I wanted to start this podcast and was just overflowing with ideas, all the things I wanted to share and guests I wanted to bring on, and what I really wanted this audience to take shape to be, which is still very much in a nascent phase of its life. But it's happening and it's growing, and the conversations are still continue to excite me, and I'm so excited about the guests that we have coming up over the next couple of months. Anyway, I digress. I was using that as a comparison of how I was feeling in the fall, getting ready to create this show. Is kind of how I'm starting to feel now, like an opposite of Mercury in retrograde. I don't know what the opposite of that is, but feeling like things are aligned and ideas are flowing. It's kind of a really fun state to be in. Like I think because I've been so consumed in the cycles of motherhood and creation for me the past almost decade, 8 years, has been in the form of babies and being pregnant and bringing new life and creating our family. I don't know if it's now that I'm done with that or feel done with that chapter that I have this additional capacity, but am I going to say, I guess I'm just going to start talking about it. I feel this pull and desire to take what's happening in the online space and move it in real life. I don't really know what shape or form that is going to take yet, but like I just envision this community feels like such a basic word, but like it's an important word, and it is definitely a word that I'm feeling, but a space for gathering, for sharing, for amplifying women's voices, a space focused on women, a space for connection, a space for sharing ideas, for all sorts of things. Um, and I think it feels scary because it feels like a lot. Like the other day, I said to my husband, I'm like, oh, well, the laundromat behind us went out of business 6 months ago, so I could just rent that out and turn it into a space. And he was like, that's not nothing. Like, I think I really could just like take a place and rent it and fix it up as if it was going to be like a side project. And he's like, no, that's a massive undertaking. And then I thought about it, and he's very much right. But I am trying not to get overwhelmed by the idea, but make it a manageable idea to figure out, is this a real thing? Could this really happen? What would we call it? What would we do there? Like it started off as actually fully transparently, I got an ad for a podcast studio in Midtown. And I was like, I'm going to go check it out because there are people that I want to record in person with. And I've tried to figure out how to configure my office to be a also hybrid in-person podcast recording studio, and it just doesn't feel feasible. Like this is not a circular room or a rectangular room or a square. Like I don't even know how to describe what shape it is, but it's curved on one side and like angled with this like weird wall you see behind me sticking out. So it's just, and then the door is over here and my Peloton, I was like, where do should I move my Peloton to the living room? And that's when I was like, you're trying too hard to make something work that probably isn't going to work in the way that it is. Anyway, so I was going to go look at this and still am actually, I have an appointment to go look at this in-person podcast studio. And then I was like, well, what if we had like an all-female podcast studio? I don't know. I don't know anything about podcast studios. And then I was thinking, well, it wouldn't just be a podcast studio because I want people to come hang out and I want people to share ideas and I want to have like panels and like fireside chats and feel cozy. And then I was like, what is that? I don't know. And I'm sure something like it exists, but could a new space exist? Okay, I feel like I said a lot now. um, anyway, so the ideas are just flooding into my brain, and this is sort of what I'm thinking about and spending my brain power on because it feels fun and exciting. And will I ever figure this out? I have no idea, but it's fun to think about. And maybe this idea, thinking about it, will lead to another idea. And maybe it's just because it is nature's natural beginning of the year that we're entering into. And I'm feeling inspired. Are you? Tell me about your ideas. Okay. Well, I'm going to answer a couple questions that I put out on my stories, two very different ones. Oh, I'm looking at my notes. I was also going to talk about my breastfeeding journey. I'll spend a few minutes on that. Still breastfeeding, still pumping. My good old Spectra is right here on my desk. And I've had a couple of questions lately of like, what are my plans? How long am I going to keep doing it? I'm actually going to give myself credit here. I am actually very proud of how I have handled this breastfeeding journey. So, my son, my oldest son, I breastfed for 3.5 months, almost 4 months. Um, when and he was exclusively breastfed until I went back to work. And then when I went back to work, I basically exclusively pumped. And was said I wanted to I wanted to feed him in the morning and at night when I was and then on weekends, of course, when I was with him, but then I would pump during the day. But I didn't actually know how to do that. And I got so in my head once I started pumping almost full time of, okay, I'm pumping this many ounces. And at this frequency, so every 3 hours. And then if I was leaving work, trying to time his feedings at home with our nanny to me having to come home and either pump right away or feed him. But if he had just eaten, then he'd be full. And then in the morning, depending when we woke up, I would have to be ready for work or I'd want to work out. And so I'd end up pumping anyway. Long story short, I ended up quitting pretty much cold turkey within a month of going back to work because I just didn't know. I didn't know how to manage a schedule with pumping, with feeding. And if I felt very regimented about it, I was still very much in my postpartum depression, anxiety, and like everything. I was a control freak about a lot and had a lot. I was still holding on to all the perfectionism tendencies. Um, and so I really wasn't able to entertain or understand that a hybrid solution could work and I could relax a little bit. When when my daughter was born, it was during the pandemic. And so work was still entirely shut down. Our offices were fully remote. She also had a lot of feeding issues early on. But because I was home with her pretty often and she was also in daycare starting at 7 months, because I wasn't commuting for work and I was working from home full time, I was able to breastfeed her until 8.5 months. And actually, our offices were still closed, but we had to work offsite out of town. And I was away for 3 nights. And I was just so exhausted. Like, work travel is so much. It was my first, not only work trip since in over a year because it had been the pandemic, I also hadn't even seen colleagues in real life because we'd been fully remote. So we went from like zero contact to 3 full days in person. And I just honestly didn't even have time to pump and my supply pretty much dried up. And she was already 9 months. She was eating solids almost 9 months. And so that was kind of that. And then this round, I don't know what it is about this very ambiguous goal or it's not ambiguous, but this goal of wanting to make it a year. Like, I don't know what propels. Maybe it's because that's when they can have whole milk and you don't have to worry about formula or breast milk or whatever it's going to be. And it's just regular milk. But each time I was like, I'm going to be the person that breastfeeds for a full year. And both times I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with this. And so I sort of wanted that, but I had known it with this third baby. But I had also had enough experience to be like, I'm not holding on to anything that I don't need to hold on to. So I really didn't know what was going to happen when I started breastfeeding her, or how long I was going to last. I knew I was going to try and make it work and try and figure it out. And I honestly feel like it has been such an anchor for me continuing to feed her, really, and in reclaiming a lot of what I felt was lost in birth plans that I never got. I felt so emotionally invested in the birth plans and visions that I wanted, um, that just because of circumstances never happened for me. And by far, the last birth was the hardest, most traumatic, very difficult. And I didn't think this would make me emotional. Um, I It's hard when you know that, like, it's not something you can recreate. I compare a lot of things in life to marathon running because I've run many marathons. Um, and the difference is you can always run another marathon. You can always train for another race. Like, no, it's not easy, but you can do it. Marathons happen every weekend of the year all over the world. You can't just give birth again without having another baby. And so it's hard. It's a hard thing to, accept the experience that I had. And I know many women feel that way as well. Anyway, I feel like though, because I didn't get to write the story ending that I wanted around birth, I can do that around breastfeeding. And so I've just tried to find ways to make it manageable through pumping, I do feed her most mornings and I nurse her to sleep. And then whenever I'm with her on the weekends, I don't pump at all. And it's been just honestly healing being able to have this choice. And I know I could stop at any minute. I mean, I'd wean, I wouldn't just cold turkey, and there's no need to hold on. But at this point, like I thought I'd probably wind it down around the holidays. And when I made it through that one, I think it was an anchor for me during the holidays because there was a lot going on. And I think once I made it through that, and then I was like, I don't have time to wean before I go to Aruba. And so I know I was already just preparing to pump when I was on the bachelorette party in Aruba. And then by the time I got back, I was like, I'm so close. I'm so close to a year. Like, what's 8 more weeks? It's nothing. In the grand scheme of life, making it to a year when I've already made it 10 and a half months, it's nothing. And I actually feel really at peace about it, and that I do think I'll be ready to wean when she turns 1 in a couple weeks here, which we're not going to cry about that until April solo episode. Whew, get it together. So yeah, so people have been talking to me about it, just kind of, I don't know, I think people are curious, which doesn't bother me at all. So there's no like forcing it. There's no amount of, I don't know. There's a lot of feeling there, but it feels empowering. It feels like that feels too strong. It feels like what it's meant to be. I feel like I've gained a sense of agency around the story that I want back and things, and you don't always get endings that you want in life, and this is one that I can get back. I know that the time of life for me that I will get back in a couple weeks. I know what that's going to be like, but I'm not in a rush. This is a very finite experience being a year postpartum, and it's only a year. We've got a lot of life left to live, a lot of time to wake up early and go to the gym, go back to running, clean my apartment, clean my counters. So yeah, I'll also say if you're a first time mom or a breastfeeding mom and trying to figure it out, give yourself so much grace. As I just talked about for probably too long, it took me until the third time to feel this way about it. And I have worked with, can't even count how many different lactation consultants. I had one with my son, two with my daughter, my middle daughter, and then I found Ayelet this last round, and she's phenomenal. If you are in New York and need a recommendation, reach out because she's the best there is. Give yourself grace. It is a lot to figure out, the scheduling, the logistics, the monitoring the weight if your baby's having feeding trouble. There's just so much there. So I'll leave it at that. But that's the breastfeeding update. Okay, now on to the questions. Okay, someone asked, can you talk about your morning and evening routines with the kids? I cannot. And the reason I cannot is because I don't think we have morning and evening routines. We have more checklist items, like things that have to get done. So, for example, in the morning, everyone needs to brush their teeth. Everyone needs to brush their hair. Everyone needs to eat breakfast. Everyone needs to be wearing clothes. Everyone needs to get their shoes on their feet. It's March right now, almost, and we've been in the dead of winter. Everyone needs to get their winter gear on. How these things happen is different every single day of the week, which spikes your stress levels. I'm not going to lie. Having 3 young kids with that checklist of things that has to get done, we're in very varying stages of support. So the older two obviously brush their own teeth. My son can brush his own hair. My daughter cannot. The baby doesn't have hair. My son can make breakfast. My daughter cannot, but he can make it for both of them. So he does that. They both can get themselves dressed. The baby cannot. So we're in different stages of independence and things they can do on their own and then also need oversight with, which, whew, yeah, mornings can be rough. I will say, it says with kids. So I'm reading the question to be like, what is our morning routine with the kids? But if you mean more of like overall flow, my husband and I sort of tag team in and out. So depending on what time the baby wakes up, if she is not awake by 6:30, then I get up and pump. And sometimes if I'm really committed and get to bed early enough, I'll wake up and I'll set an alarm for earlier and try and work out. But basically, I'm either feeding her or pumping by 6:30. And then in that time, my husband is getting up and showering and getting himself ready so that when I finish feeding the baby, I can hand her off to him and I can do like my quick ready. So my quick ready is brush my teeth, put my contacts in, take my glasses out, drink coffee, wash my face. And then we're both, that gets us to like, I don't know, 7:15-ish. Then we're both getting the kids ready, putting clothes on, packing bags, making lunches. I'll also sometimes try and do a workout like while they're getting ready. Again, it just kind of depends on timing. And by workout, I mean like a 10 to 15-minute Peloton class, not a cardio boot camp at Barry's. Um, so we hand off responsibilities between the both of us, and then my husband usually takes the kids to school so that I can then get fully ready. I'll clean up the kitchen a little bit, get myself fully ready for the workday, and then eat and go to work. Evenings, similar process, different checklist. So obviously everyone needs dinner, homework, packing bags for the morning sometimes. That's such a lie. We try and pack bags. I'll try and refill the baby's bag, but we usually do that in the morning. I should add that to my system list. I will actually pack my work bag, which is hard though sometimes if I'm going to the office, but I'll put like my laptop and all of my stuff in. I can't pack my pump bag until the morning because I need my pumps in the morning. More in the evening, we always try to do at least some sort of family activity. Not rarely. I'd say half the nights we eat as a family, other half, everyone is just kind of eating as they go based on what time I get home, what time my husband gets home, what time we both get home with the kids. Evenings are really chaotic. But before bed, after everyone has eaten, bathed. Okay, so the checklist for nighttime is uh, homework, dinner, bath or shower, brushing teeth, obviously, pajamas. I'm going to add for me after the kids, cleaning my counters. And then we try and do something fun. So either playing a board game or reading a book all together, doing a little art project, and like nothing big. I mean, this is like a 15-minute thing. We were on a big Clue kick for a while. We love board games. Something like that just to try and connect as a family. It doesn't always work, but I'll say most nights that is the thing that we're connecting over versus like sitting down around a table for dinner. That just is what works for us. But we are definitely in a phase of life right now where like rigid routines just don't work. There's too much going on. So it's more what are the things that we absolutely have to happen every morning and every night and focus on getting those done in whatever order. What are your routines? Do you have suggestions? Do people have better ways of getting out the door in the morning? I'm sure you do. I'd love to hear about them. Okay, what else was there? The other question was flying with 3 kids. So if you follow me on Instagram last week, 2 weeks ago, it was winter break in New York City. So the week of President's Day, New York City public schools are closed for winter break. Um, this year we did something we hadn't done before. My parents came in town, picked up my older 2 kids, and took them down to visit family in Florida because my husband and I still have work. And then halfway through the week on Wednesday, I flew down with the baby, spent 3 days down there, and then basically picked the kids up, flew all 3 kids back to New York. And my parents stayed in Florida for a little bit longer. And someone asked about flying with 3 kids. Okay, I've actually done it before, and it's not that bad. This one was a little bit worse. I'm going to caveat all of this by saying my children are usually their best behaved selves on airplanes. I don't know how that happened, but we have been traveling with all of them since they've been very young. We just decided, I don't know, that we were going to be a family that travels. We weren't going to pause travel just because we have young kids. We were going to make travel work with our family's needs. That could probably be a whole episode about our I don't want to say philosophy around that, but how we make it work and trial and error and how we've had to adjust and pivot because there's a whole lot to unpack there. Again, if you heard about our trip to Hawaii from January's solo episode, you know. Anyway, the flight itself was totally fine. I will say we are just starting to enter the baby's worst flying age, which I feel like is once they start moving, so like needing to crawl around until like 2.5. So like the next year and a half or so, I feel like is going to be rough for flights with her, because once you can put an iPad in front of them, boom, game over, silent. It's amazing. That being said, we only do tablets on airplanes or transportation. We very rarely travel by train or anything, but any type of airplane travel, like not for subways, like not that type of travel, but train travel, air travel. I can't think of any type of travel that we do. That's when they get their tablets and they just sit back, relax, watch shows for however long the flight is, and eat a shit ton of snacks. So it was actually fine. Now, they completely lost their minds the second we landed. Not the second. We walked off the plane and then they lost their mind. We took a mid-morning flight, which was good and bad. Good in that we didn't have to wake up super early to get to the airport, because that's always a frantic situation. But also, it wasn't late. It was 10 a.m. And so we still had to like get up and move and get out the door, which just, it's never easy. Like it's never not stressful when you're on a time crunch. So I think we had like toast for breakfast, not a ton of food. And I thought we'd have more time at the airport to get something, but we just didn't. So I had snacks packed, and then they had plain snacks on the plane. But we landed and I don't know, it was like 2 p.m. And so nobody had had lunch. So they were hungry. I'm going to skip through all the story and just say they got in a very big fight. We got in a very, very big fight. It was a lot. Everyone cried. All four of us. All four of us cried. And the sweetest grandmother saw all of this happening and came over to me and said, "Don't say no. I was just traveling with my grandkids and I have a whole backpack full of snacks. Have your kids pick out whatever they want. Anything they want, they can have." And I just like started bawling, and she was like, "Travel days are so hard. You're doing great." And I'm like, "Are you an angel? Am I hallucinating right now? You are so nice." And she gave them little applesauce packs and yogurt and a bag of pretzels. And I was just like, I cannot tell you what an angel and absolute saving grace you are. And then when we got through baggage claim, I saw there was a Dunkin' Donuts and bought everybody bagels. But like, be that person, be that grandma. When you see a mom struggling by herself, tell her she's doing a great job, because I could feel the eyeballs. When you just feel the people staring at you, like we were that scene. But we made it and we survived. And really, that is the first time I've ever had an incident traveling with them. I traveled with them again over the summer. Not again, previously over the summer. And the baby was much younger. She's only like 2 months then. So she just sat in the baby carrier and slept the whole time. But as of now, I'm doing it again in a couple weeks for Easter. And I'm actually trying to think. I think we might have an indirect flight. So that is key. Traveling alone with kids, direct flights. I'm going to have to check on why I did the flight plan that I did. But anyway, travel, take your kids places, have experiences. And if you need to, just cry. It's not a big deal. All right. That is all I have for March's solo episode. I'm going to count on you to hold me accountable on my Clear the Counters for March. I'll report back in April's solo episode. I'm sure will all be about me about to be having a 1-year-old. So, I'm not ready for that. Let's end this before I cry again. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would so appreciate you subscribing, downloading this. That is how I can continue to broaden this audience and bring these episodes to you. Until next time, be kind, be safe, be brave.